Hello everybody, I'm Scott from WhatCulture Gaming, and though things look to have simmered a bit on the whole difficulty versus accessibility debate brought about by Sekiro, I wanted to throw my 2 cents in. Because video game difficulty is a fascinating topic to pick apart. On the one hand, there's definitely psychological and philosophical value to overcoming an obstacle or purpose-built challenge, emerging on the other side having accomplished something, having conquered a feat that you know huge chunks of the population might have just given up on. On the other hand, though, is the reality that video game difficulty was invented to rob you. Literally born in the arcades as a way to make you cough up more coins for another chance to beat a boss or level, this mentality resulted in primarily children and teenagers priding themselves on getting as far as possible on each subsequent run. Come the time technology had advanced far enough to allow for the likes of the home console, video game devs were hit with a problem: the complete lack of a recurrent spending method after that initial price point. They weren't not going to charge a premium amount for the game, and thus we saw a mutation of the purpose behind difficulty itself. No longer would games kill you unfairly or throw up obstacles that require trial and error because of the need to pay again. Instead, they would be hard to elongate the overall amount of time spent playing, thus giving any gamer their money's worth, justifying that high unit cost. Various games writers over the years have dove into how different studios handled this, and developer Kevin Lenio noted in 2014 that with video game rentals being a major source of income, developers would create choke points to block your progress, forcing you to cough up the cash to try for completion. Bizarrely, considering their family-friendly persona, one of the biggest culprits of overall difficulty spikes was Nintendo. Though they took a massive financial risk providing the NES and its associated advertising materials to a post-game Crash America for free, all in a bid to revitalize gaming overall by only taking a cut if the system sold, the term Nintendo Hard quickly got off the ground. It was in response to how annoying and cheap almost every major title on the NES was, and they then found a way to monetize that frustration at every turn. Introducing the Nintendo Power Line, a phone hotline set up alongside their own Nintendo Power magazine to offer tips to players whenever they got stuck, which they would all the time because 80s game design was once again predicated on elongation just as much as escapism. Whether they realized it or not, and the cynic in me says that some number cruncher must have realized this at some point, Nintendo were literally creating or licensing insanely hard or nigh on impossible games to players, only to benefit when they inevitably got stuck. It's kinda genius in a mwahaharing sort of way, but we've got consumers unnecessarily being punished for financial gain. Now, obviously it's worth pointing out that this was a multifaceted problem indicative of the time, and The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Bros., etc. were created with something closer to artistry in mind. Shigeru Miyamoto's work on these titles is legend because it prioritized a creative vision across development, and we wouldn't even have the likes of The Legend of Zelda without him visiting a random cave in a forest as a child, being inspired by the notion of sheer exploration. Still, the role of difficulty in the experience was less than ideal, a product of delivering on a supposed amount of value per game, twinned with the fact that the industry's coders were literally learning how to, well, code. Back to the arcades, and as the general conversations surrounding games were nothing approaching story, but more how far did you get or what's your high score, this became the marker of quality. It's this same notion of gamer metal or being a real gamer that you can still see being tested by the likes of Super Meat Boy, God of War's Valkyrie fights, or Sekiro's literally everything. All of this, though, came from a corporately minded mentality designed to take advantage of players in a way that leaves them out of money and the game forever unconquerable. Sekiro's difficulty is described as old school for a reason, and hopefully this gets you thinking as to the role of difficulty in gaming over the years, alongside when and where it does or doesn't belong today. Whilst it certainly sucked when all you got after years of learning all of Mario was Peach being in another castle, what developed alongside these fairly ugly business practices was the psychological pleasure of adapting to and overcoming the challenge at hand. Battles of mental fortitude, reflexes, or hand-eye coordination is now at the heart of esports, but this too was present in the era of the arcade leaderboard. Fundamentally, if you put the time in, trained your brain and body to respond to every possible permutation of a game's animation, you'd get a higher score. And in a contextual dominance hierarchy centered around playing video games, that was massively important. It's here where the two schools of thought I'm describing collide. We can concretely say that video game difficulty was manufactured to make money, but how much worth do we then put on the competitive and rewarding aspects that resulted as an after effect? Why and how do we value difficulty if it's designed to disappoint and set you back? Author and Oxford psychology professor Andrew Shabilsky, who I really recommend you check out by the way, has put a lot of time into analysing video game compulsion loops. It might be a fairly common term in the age of the loot shooter now, but Shabilsky's loops refer to the parts of the game that come together to produce reward, creating a release of dopamine in the brain and encouraging you to keep going. Over gaming's lifetime, gameplay loops have been refined and perfected across all sorts of genres and on all sorts of scales. To go back to loot shooters, the loop is entirely take mission or quest, understand what's being asked of you, defeat enemy, get reward. It's literally why these rewards are the brightest, shiniest things possible, bursting with all sorts of enjoyable visual ephemera that screams, "Well done! You got the thing!" It's also why every game with a focus on loot boxes makes sure they practically leap off the screen, and it doesn't take a genius to connect the dopamine rush of unlocking loot crates, i.e. jumping to the conclusion of a given gameplay loop, with the continual spending of real-world cash, resulting in a recurrent spending model that's literally made billions of dollars. Difficulty then shakes up that gameplay loop by stretching it out. It often loses the reward in sight and directly impacts your dopamine rush. It categorically runs the risk of actively annoying you, of denying you the hit at the exact moment in a level, boss fight, NPC interaction, etc., when the game could have turned into one of your all-time favorites. It's this very core thing that affects different people in different ways, depending on infinite extraneous factors relating to what mood you're in, how your day is going, current financial situation, level of tiredness, etc. But this bold changing of expectation is also why From Software's games have become such runaway successes. The Soulsborne, Row, whatever fandom understand what they're getting into, and they put up with ludicrous amounts of obstacles and F you, learn this game design, knowing that when such a carefully designed gameplay loop closes, it'll feel like nothing else. In the current climate though, a really brutal difficulty curve or roadblock is a risk, and alongside some razor-sharp combat, it's why Sekiro Shadows Die Twice became the center of the difficulty versus accessibility debate. Literally no other big budget developers or publishers are prioritizing difficulty. One, because the industry is too costly and budgets need to be recouped with as few risks as possible, and two, because the dopamine rush satisfaction can be stupidly lucrative. And yet, the safer the game, the more we turn up our nose. We've been conditioned since gaming's inception to value titles that explore the medium they're in. These are games after all, and when developers remove mechanics to streamline the process, even though it leads to an infinitely kinder experience, we'll class that as a negative. The grand irony, of course, is that the gaming industry created this die-hard, just one more go gamer that seeks out and prides themselves on challenge, only to turn their back on them in favor of the larger casual audience, because that's now where the money is. Those who truly do feel something indescribably empowering when conquering a horrifically annoying level or boss are totally valid. The school of design that they graduated from is born from a tenacious time where only a few could play comfortably. Those who want to tweak settings and lower difficulty spikes to see the entirety of what they've paid for, though, they are just as valid. It's about understanding the history of why we think the way we do. And if a game is truly kicking your ass, the only person that needs to be okay with lowering the difficulty or playing something else entirely is you. At least that's what I think, having played games for close to 30 years now. I love a good hard game and I love overcoming it, but I totally see the manufactured side of it that kind of makes it all a whole load of bullshit. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com. Please check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.
Look, my son, look at the marvel that I have created.
Comics.
They called me a fool for trying to put a dead meme onto a t-shirt. A damn bold fool! A damn bold fool with an ass that won't quit. It got quite personal towards the end there. But look who's laughing now! Quiet! Quiet, my son, my ugly son, for my other creation rises. Look at the quality fabric, hand-stitched by blind orphans. The perfect letter spacing calculated so meticulously that Rich Hudson had an erection for months about it. And a colouring so deep that I had to buy the dye off the dark web. Oh, for God's sake, Josh!
Sorry.
Marvel. Oh no, the beast has grown angry, angered by our drab fashion choices. I am such a fool to think that it wouldn't try to infect us with its perfect design. Quick, we must do something to appease the beast. Why don't we buy one from shop.whatculture.com? Oh. Look, it's already got Scott Nash.
Oh no!
But where can I buy one? Are you kidding me? This is why I don't give you any extra lines. But also at shop.whatculture.com. Quick, let's go and buy one right now. Let's go buy one right now.
Right now.
Oh, don't you try hard now. You've already lost your bit. Oscar's in the f***ing bin. There we go. Doesn't that look better? I feel so virile and alive, and it's also fixed your hump. That's actually pretty good. Now do yourself a favour and act like your mum and spread the love, aka her legs, and buy yourself one of these glorious dead memes on a t-shirt, courtesy of this handsome chap right here. You're very, very welcome.
Cut!
Jesus Christ, mine is so
It's
itchy.
all wet. What? It stinks.
I pissed on yours.
The worst font ever. I want to die.